So, can you go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself for us first?
My name is Jeff Wamsley. I live here in the city of Sullivan. I was born and raised here. Married 35 years, come next month. Can't forget that. Got 2 good children, and just know the city pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us a little bit more about why you're wanting to run for the position of Mayor of Sullivan?
Well, I tell you what, I worked for Indiana Department of Transportation for 31 years, over 31 years. And I'm done with that now. I'm retired from NDOT, so I decided to pursue something else. I've been planning this for a little while and working it in the system. So I figure I'd just try to give back to my community a little bit and see if I can help them out a little bit as a leader.
And in what ways are you wanting to try and give back?
Infrastructure is my key program. I'm all about infrastructure. We have a lot of things inside the city limits that need to be addressed. We've got drainage problems. We've got sewer problems. Actually, we got an old town that we're trying to set up and make it a little bit better for everyone to live in.
And have you thought any specifics about how you're going to try and tackle those particular issues in the city? Particularly, let's start with infrastructure, with the streets themselves.
Well, first you got to go through and evaluate them. You have to go from the bottom up. You got to look at the drainage. You got to look at the area you got to improve. If you have to buy land, if you have to widen intersections inside the inner city lines, and probably look at it for money-wise would have to be grants, because I'm sure our city has got their back up against the wall or plate full with funds now. So we'd have to look at grants to try to get things done.
You have any experience grant writing?
No, I don't have any experience with grant writing, but I know some people that do.
Okay. Beyond infrastructure, are there any other things you'd like to focus on if you were elected?
Well, infrastructure is my key. I'd like to see the quality of life, period, better for the people of Sullivan. And that's going to take years. It's not going to happen overnight. I just want people to know that. It does take time to have progress. And there's sacrifices everyone has to make to have progress. And I may be the lamb, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
as far as quality of life, I know that's something that our current mayor has talked about some too. The Civic Center, what's being done there, is that a positive to you, or is that a negative?
well, to tell you the truth, it's water underneath the bridge. It is what it is. It's a done deal. We will deal with it and progress, and hopefully it'll make some money for the city where we can improve on other areas.
And what other aspects of quality of life do you want to focus on? Are there any particular projects you've had in mind for a while?
I'd like to find a way to keep our most valuable resources here, and that's our children. I'd like to find out about jobs. I've got a lot of good resources that I can go to for talk to manufacturers and maybe some technology corporations that I can talk to, and try to convince them maybe to look at the city. But first, you got to have a good, sound infrastructure. They're not going to come here and build or move into a spot and remodel it if they can't get the water, the drain, or sewers to work, and the roads look good and wide and clean for trucks to get in and out. You got to have infrastructure.
Piggybacking off of that, one of the things that I know they've talked about several different times during city meetings, city redevelopment, is the fact that there's not any space within the city to really install an industrial park other than kind of what's already over there with Alamatic. How do you foresee trying to be able to include those type of businesses with the space that Sullivan has to work with?
That's a good question. I know we got some dead spots. We've got some dead spots, like I call it the old Galzer building across the tracks on the east side. It's kind of like right there. Right now, it's a storage unit for asbestos, I believe. And we want to keep the companies. My whole thing is to keep what we got, and hopefully we can expand out later on in jobs. And to expand inside the city, you just got to look at key locations, maybe buy the property reasonable, and have good drainage off of it. I have nothing against women going outside the city limits even. If they have to go outside, because the way I look at it, it'll bring jobs into the side of the city limits because you're fairly close, and they may even want to buy a house, live here because we're central located. You know, your city of Sullivan is central located in the county of Sullivan.
Say, do you have any, the question we had, we've asked Clint was about what are your plans on addressing communication with the public and dealing with the public about city initiatives and projects that will affect the public and during your term?
Well, communication, I'm gonna have to say, you got to get the word out to people. I don't have all the answers for that. That's something I'm gonna look into. That's kind of a vague area for me, which you have to use, you know, local communication at that. TV's always a good thing. Everybody watches TV, you know. But the thing of it is, we need to get our P's and Q's lined up before we start doing anything. Make sure we know what we're doing before we do it.
And again, piggybacking off of something you mentioned with drainage, I know you mentioned earlier that Sullivan has issues with stormwater and drainage. How do you plan on addressing those issues if you are elected?
Well, first we need to find out where the lines are at. A lot of them I understand going to private property. We may not have easements. We don't know. Some of the records go back years and years ago. They're running a situation now with sewer lines running across properties that may not have easements. So I guess my thing is you need to look at that, find out what you can find out, and that's a first stepping stone. And my thing would be start from the outside and work yourself in. You can get the water to the drain maybe up here at the street, but if it ain't going nowhere, I mean somewhere down the line, it's plugged up. So you need to look at the outside and work yourself in as a perimeter in a circle line.
Right, and what specifically about the CSOs here, the combined system sewer overflows that empty out into Buck Creek? Have you given any thought to about how the city should be addressing that issue?
That's something I'd have to hook up with somebody that knows something about it. Okay? And I'm sure IDM would know some things about it. You have to talk to them, let them know what you know, what they can tell you. That's a safe way to play that.
And you had mentioned that you've worked with NDOT. Do you have any contacts within the state government and the state agencies that you envision being of major help if you are elected?
Well, let's put it this way. I've got a lot of people I've worked with for 30 years, and I know people in certain places, and they've all moved around too. They're in different spots now, or they've retired. So, you know, it's a hit and miss from that, but I do know where maybe make some calls and find out some things.
Assess valuation, another thing, going down the line of one thing, how do you plan to address increasing the city's assess valuation?
Well, the best way to increase the valuation, I think, is to improve property lines. Property has to be improved. The market on property around here is pretty reasonable, and really I think it's pretty cheap. And I think there's room for improvement all the way around, you know, houses and things. This blight system coming up, which is working, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's a pretty good deal. I think we need some houses destructed and taken down. I'm just hoping that someone will build on them. That's what I'm talking about here. If you start doing some infrastructure and people see you're trying to help your city in many other ways, you know, like we're doing with the Civic Center and things like that already, that they'll see that you're really serious, and maybe we can get some of these drainage issues taken care of, and they feel more confident about building a home on these lots.
Well, when you talk about the infrastructure, I mean, you said you've lived here for all your life, pretty much.
Yeah, I have. I was born and raised here.
Was there a time where you saw this problem getting worse, or has it been a long-term thing? Or?
You know, that's a good question. I can remember, well, when I even noticed, back in the early 70s, there was some drainage problems here on Section, and there was parts of the city that were drained. Up on the north end, they had some issues. I remember that because I was pretty young. You know, I hit the mud puddles like everybody else. Rode your bike through them. You know, you done your thing. You was a kid. I remember they used to run into Buck Creek down here on the west side. It was called Buck Creek. We used to, yeah, I played in that creek. You know, there's a lot of things going on. Does that answer your question pretty well? Or?
Yeah, well, basically, it has been something you've seen that's been around.
Yeah,
for a while.
it's not been, it just didn't happen overnight. It's slowly got, I think it's just slowly got worse. Your tributaries on the outside of the city are slowly sifting in. Your creeks and ditches are sifting in. So, you know, that's normal thing. And it takes almost I don't know, it takes a lot to get anything ditched out and cleaned anymore, because everyone's invasion of their privacy on their personal properties. But it's a link to it's a natural waterway, so it has to be cleaned out. You know, things like that. That gets the water moving.
Well, on that, I mean, and you've mentioned grants, but most of the points from small towns have been that there's just not the money available from the state that they used to get. Is that something that you look at increasing taxes or something locally, or?
Nobody wants to see taxes increased. Nobody. Anybody does, they're not right in the head. That's something that you don't want to see. It's something that may have to be done in the future. Personally, I wouldn't like it either. I've got property inside the city. I got property a little bit everywhere, so nobody likes to see high taxes. And that's the last form you want to do. That's your last resort. That's your last resort.
From what you're seeing, though, with the infrastructure problems that aren't being addressed, I mean, is that something that you think is important enough?
Well,
look for.
I think it's important even to draw anybody in town or even want to build something on an empty lot in town. If they have problems in their homes now next to the open lot they may have purchased or owned or purchased back, it's hard for them to say, yeah, I'm going to build a home, but my sewer keeps backing up. My basement's filling up. I mean, how can they, why would they want to build another home on it? They probably want to put a garage, and then you're going to draw a minimum from the tax off that garage, but it's better than nothing, of course. But, you know, if you can't put a basement in the ground, it ain't going to drain, then we got issues. And I'm going to tell you, this is a long-term deal. When you talk about infrastructure, you're talking about a long-term deal. It don't happen overnight. It may not happen in a 4-year term of a mayor, but you have to get the ball rolling somewhere.
You might know a little more about this with Harold. You want to get into 4 there? 4
With kind of piggybacking off of discussion of the budget and taxes of that nature, the city has, in several years past, had to deal with the circuit breaker tax caps and budget cuts from that, and just general lack of funding that's not necessarily available from the state. How would you go about addressing any type of cuts to the budget that would occur under your administration? Is there particular areas that you think would be the first places you'd go if you'd had to cut from the budget, or are there certain things that you wouldn't touch?
To be fair about the question, what you're asking, I'd have to have a copy of the budget. I'd have to see what expenditure was in the past, what expenditures are happening now, and figure out what we'd have to do with what area we'd have to do it in. That's not fair for me to make a judgment call right now because I haven't seen a whole lot about it. Just what I hear, I haven't had the time to sit there and analyze it and read it and try to figure some things out. You know, it's kind of like running your own home. You got to see what you got in the pot before you can take out of it or spend. Same thing.
But are there any particular areas where you wouldn't touch it, like fire, safety, police, or?
Fire and safety is always number one. It should stay at number one, not to touch it. I mean, you got to have your fire people and you got to have your police. Of course, I don't know if they're running on long men or short men or how many part-time men or whatever. I don't know the answer to them questions until I get in there. Sometimes before I can see what's broken, I got to get in there to see what needs fixed. Okay?
Oh, we got into the city initiatives here. Okay. Well, there's been some publicity locally lately with Max Judson being arrested in relation to voter fraud. Is there, how would you Do you see corruption as a problem in the city, and how would you address corruption within local government?
All I'm going to say about that is Max Jetson's a friend of mine. Known him for 50 years. And I don't have anything to comment on any of that stuff. And I'm not afraid to say he's a friend of mine.
Okay. Well, more generally than just
Well,
as far as
corruption, if I knew anything about corruption, I'd probably have the FBI visiting me or something, I guess. Because I have no idea. I'm out of that loop, you know?
Okay.
I don't know.
And we've talked about several of the specific things you're interested in doing. Where do you see the Sullivan at the end of your 4-year term if you are elected? You kind of talked a little bit about the long-term aspects of some of this. Where do you kind of see Sullivan heading if you are elected over the 4 years of your first term?
Well, hopefully I'd like to see them better off than what they are now. That simple. Everybody always wants the best for their communities, I would think. Like I said, my whole point is to retain our resources, which are our children. I think they're our future. They are our future. There's no question about it. And we have to make things right for them. At least give them some good ground to work off of. We have a great school system up here. It looks nice, very clean. It's updated. That's what we need to do with our inner city. We want people to come to us, now we have to go to them.
And building off of that, children as one of the primary resources here, and you talked about manufacturing and industry jobs of that nature. What about for students who don't necessarily go into those trade professions, those who go into
Technology.
Technology, and then also some of the degree areas that you'd require, just something beyond the bachelor's degree for the STEM programs, or even those going into liberal arts?
That's an interesting question. It's a good point. It'd be nice to have some spring off some kind of a college, ISU or maybe Ivy Tech, I don't know, about nursing, some way kind of get us something going on here in the city line, or at least on the outside edges of the city or something within a close area. You know, we want people to stick around here and spend money. The more people spend money here, the more things go on and profit. Just like your newspaper, people feel confident, they want to buy papers, they want to get hooked up online, they want to see what's going on. But we want to get, like, I'd say maybe Rose Hallman would be great. Technology, I'd like to see them in an outside area. I don't know how that'd work. I'd have to touch bases with people and talk to people and see what's available, if there's anything available, or if there's any future with them coming in the area or something. I mean, you're all over the board with this. It's hard for me to pinpoint anything because I'm just, like I said, I've worked for a long time for NDOT and I'm fresh out of the can, so you know, I haven't had a chance to really do a lot of research, but I'm sure we got some. I'll tell you what, we got some very, very. You quote it. We got some very, very smart people in the city of Sullivan. It's utilizing them to their potential is the key.
Anything you wanted to follow up on there?
I think I've got the follow-up I need on that question.
Okay. Well, this is something we got into a little bit with Clint. He was mentioning people who come back, and I'm one of those people. I came back. The downtown is not as active as what I remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I was here before. It's stimulating, getting more things going on downtown. Do you think that's even important, or what can be done to do that?
Well, that was the whole point of the Civic Center, the way I understand it.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Well, that was part of it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a starting point, right?
Yeah.
You know, I understand that it's hard to get people involved nowadays. People have changed; they're evolving. They get into technology, and they seem like they like to sit at home and do things more than anything. I mean, just look around. You guys, sorry, ladies too, know what's going on. I mean, you sit there and watch these guys constantly bang, 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 bang. You know. It's not like they're active, and the parents are changing because they're evolving, so they're not dragging their children out into participation with them out on these activities. And I don't have a good answer for that because it's not only us; it's the global world. I mean, the world is changing all the time. I don't know if it's for a good thing. But I like to think of we're just a good old hometown. We're small town America, and we need to keep things close to our small towns and our inner cities what we can, and the county period. I mean, we got to promote it all. You can't just promote one thing. You got to promote it all. And I don't have a good answer for that, but I kind of explained it. You guys understand what I'm trying to say, don't you? With the technology the way it is, they don't get out and be as active as they used to. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I played ball. I mean, we were, you know, we run it, we done everything. We played in the creek. You got your butt beat when you got home. I mean, you know, it's part of the relations of growing up. Now kids don't do that. They don't do that hardly at all. So that's why I keep saying our children are our main foundation and what we need to do. We need to keep them close into Sullivan. We need to keep things going on in the square if we possibly can. The Corn Festival is the big boom. That's the big boom, Sullivan. And they put on a good show. They have a clean carnival. They keep things moving up on the square that week. It upsets some of the businesses, I understand. I've been told, because they don't have as much business. But, you know, we struggle at business every day. I'm a business owner myself, so I know exactly how it is. That's about all I got to say on that.
Within the last administration, the mayor used to be part-time, it's now full-time. Do you believe that's what we need here in this town? How is it?
Well, I'm going to tell you, some people don't like the word full-time, but actually being a mayor is full-time. And because you know how it is, people, they'll call you over a barking dog or somebody trespassed across their property, and they think you're the key to all situations. When we have department heads that should be taking care of that issue, you know, without you being called at it, but they don't know to have the right numbers. I think the mayor at this moment in time got a lot of things going on. Mayor Clint Lamb does, and I know he's full-time at it. I know it's going to be a tough job. I know a lot of people are upset with the salary. You know, that's been brought up to me several times on questions from the public. And I'll just tell you like I tell them, if it's good enough for Clint, it'll be good enough for me.
And, yeah, and there is, I mean, getting grants, those kind of things.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to it. Yeah. You're the pick man as mayor, so you're the one always hit on.
You want to go?
Well, one thing, we've talked about some of the things that Mayor Clint Lamb has done. How would a Jeff Wamsley administration be different?
Well, we have two different things we see here. Me, I would have started infrastructure when I first got into term if it possibly could have been done. Okay? Get the ball rolling on that. Because I felt that's how it should be constructed. You got to have good roads and good drainage and things like that. And I can't pinpoint that because I'm still learning. Every day I'm learning. And like I said, there's smart people in this city, and the county itself can help direct me in places where I need to go. You got to use your resources, and they got to be willing to help you. And I'd like to have that guidance, and I wouldn't have a closed door to it. I mean, everyone had a learning term. Even Clint had a learning age. I mean, he had to start. You know, all mayors probably did at one point. They become mayor one time. They had to learn. They had to draw off what they learned and use their resources.
So, do you have ideas who you would be drawing from when you if you would be elected?
Yeah, I think,
specific people, but I mean, what kind of people?
Sure. I got a few ideas, but I'm not going to say who they are because, I mean, you know, it wouldn't be fair to them because I haven't asked them.
And as a Republican, if you were elected, I don't want to make any comparisons to what's going on nationally, but this has generally been considered a Democratic county working with the Democratic Council. I'm speculating. Could you see any problems with that?
No.
And,
No. I don't see any problem at all. I get along with just about everybody. I try to be fair. I try to put myself in their situation, and to me, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think you're in the game together, and you should work together to get things done. I think they want the best for the city too, as well as I would or anybody else, and the county. I mean, I got to throw the county; they're a big part of everything too.
Well, and it's politically kind of expounding on that. I mean, because generally Republicans have been in the minority, or what drew you to the GOP party?
Well, I don't understand the question. Where are you at? You're all over the
What
board
made
on
you a Republican?
Do I now?
What made you a Republican?
Well, I that's kind of funny you asked. I don't. I had to choose at one time, and my father was a staunch Democrat. He was a mason. He's finished concrete. Before that, he sold insurance here around Sullivan area. Empire Life Insurance. I mean, that's old stuff. I still got a policy on it. You know, and he was a staunch Democrat, union man, everything. My mom, she was a Republican, and you know, she come from small town Duggar over here. She was born and raised over there, and I don't know. I just it was kind of like flip a coin and see where we go. I like both sides. That's why I said there's good views on both sides. There is. And so you have to choose, or you can be an independent, which is fine, which about get you about nowhere anymore, I think. I don't know. I just choose to be a Republican. I mean, there was no point why I did it. Just my parents were split, and I decided to go Republican. And it's fine that anybody can choose at any time to change their politics. That's the best part. You know?
Have you run for any other government positions or anything?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Served on any boards?
This is my first time in politics. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Have you served on any public boards or anything of that nature?
Under Biddle,
Mm-hmm.
I served on a board for redevelopment down in the city.
How do you, being a first-time politician, how do you find that to be a benefit and or a hindrance?
Well, what being a benefit? Being on a board or?
No, being basically a private citizen rather than a previous candidate or somebody that's.
Well, I'm the guy outside that window there looking in. I'm trying to figure it out. And, you know, it's always different. It says, boy, it looks cold outside. Until it depends if you're outside looking in or inside looking out. And I'm trying to get a fresh taste of what politics is inside Sullivan City and Sullivan County. And it's a good thing. I think everybody needs a little competition with the mayor. You know, I think competition's good. It keeps everybody on a level field sometimes instead of overrunning. And I think it gives you a fresh views on different things. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It does me.
Now, jumping back to something you had talked about earlier with the outskirts of the city, with the previous attempt at annexation, and I was curious as what was your thoughts on that whole process?
On the annexation?
On the annexation, because I believe, aren't you part owner of the Catacorner restaurant that was
Yes.
brought in that south
Yes.
annexation?
Yes, I am.
So can you tell me a little bit about your thoughts about, do you think it was a good idea to try and annex and grow the city that way as opposed to other methods?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think anybody wants additional taxes. We're a small business. A lot of small businesses surrounding our city limits. The reason why, I tell you the truth, I was opposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's no big secret. I didn't like it because it's going to cost us money, and we're a small business and we're struggling like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
The thing of it is, it also loses our independence. We can't do what we want to do when we want to do it on a lot of things. But the city's got a lot of rules and regulations and, you know, ordinances and things like that. So that loses your independence. That's why a lot of people like to live around a city instead of in a city. They like their independence. But
Go ahead.
I know. But the city always has to keep that on the table. In other words, they have to keep that in the open mind area with taking in annexation. But it's not out, I don't like it.
But I mean, in this situation, there are small business owners in the city who are maybe having to pay additionally or pay something like save a lot in comparison to Walmart, where I'm sure Walmart.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
Was the annexation too sweeping for you, or?
I think that it was too much, too fast for everybody. If the city probably would have took smaller bites, it may not have sounded so bad.
Anybody else here?
But
I was gonna say, would you consider in the next 4 years if you're elected, you know, you mentioned there are bigger businesses out there on the highway there that would be able to more absorb that kind of problem, or, you know, like I say, would you consider it basically any other areas?
That's something I have to think about a little bit. I have to get with our council. I mean, we have to talk about this, because one thing, there's a lot of money in annexation. Of course, we all know, what was it, $387,000 spent on this last one that just drawed in on our south end, which we recovered, what, about $5,000 in taxes. So, you know, roughly. So you got to weigh and measure. I think there's an opportunity out there to do that, and we have to look at all the angles and possibilities, what it could do for us.
One of the things we did, I'm curious about, and this was kind of going off of keeping people here. One of the big things that's been going on since earlier this year is a lot of cities and a lot of counties have been looking at adding protections for lesbian, gay, transsexual, and bisexual individuals in terms of housing, in terms of jobs. Do you see that as something you think the city should do, or do you think that's something the state should handle? Or does it need to be addressed?
I don't see why it needs addressed, but that's about all I got to comment on that.
Is there any other priorities, I suppose, that we haven't got to that you would want to see if you were elected?
No, I think you guys hit about everything. It's like going to a spot shoot. You know, you just got a scatter load across. You hit a little bit of everything, tag a little bit of everything. I do want to make a comment on one thing, though, in my closing here. If that's fine with you guys. I just think that, you know, some people deserve a second chance. I'm just asking for one. Okay? I'm just asking for one chance at this game of meritorious. So that's about all I got to say.
I appreciate your time coming in and talking to us. That's it. Okay.
All right.